Haristutihi Shloka 9. Yadyadvedyam vastu satatvam vishayakhyam tattad brahmaiveti viditva tadaham cha dhyayantyevam yam sanakadya munayojam tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimide. The Anvaya and the meaning. Vishayakhyam, Vishayakhyam, Yat Yat Vedyam, Tat Tat Vastu Satatvam Cha, Tat Aham Brahma Eva Iti Viditva, Evam Sanakadyaha Munayaha Yam Ajam Dhyayanti, Tam Samsara Dhvanta Vinasham Harim Ide. Vishayakhyam, Vishayakhyam, that which is known by the term object. Akhyam means a name, name in the sense knowing, referred to. So object is referred to by the word Vishaya. Then Yat Yat, whichever or whatsoever the object, Vedyam, is perceived, tat tat vastu satatvam cha, that object or those object perceptions, they exist with the inhering consciousness also. Tat aham brahma eva, and further that I, aham, the knower or the perceiver of all the objects, is Brahman only. Iti viditva, thus understanding, evam, in this way, sanakadyaha munayaha, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, these four sages, and munayaha, other sages, yam ajam, on which Brahman, who is ajam, that is one who is without a birth, because he is beyond time, being eternal in nature. So, on that Brahman, dhyayanti, these sages meditate upon all the time, tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimide. I worship that Hari, the destroyer of ignorance, which causes samsara. Now we look at the detailed meaning. In the previous shloka, Brahman has been praised as Ananyam. It means Advitiyam. There is nothing other than Brahman. In other words, all that is here is Brahman and there is no other second entity. But in our experience, we do see different objects. Like we see a pot and then there is a table which is different, there is a cloth which is different, there are animals which look different. So then, how do we accept that Brahman is non-separate from all that is here? So there are many statements from the Shruti establishing this presence of Brahman in all the cognitions, in everything. Few of them are, Chandogya Upanishad says, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. All that is known as Idam is indeed Brahman. Then it also says, Atma Vedam Sarvam. All that is here is Atma alone. Then Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has a statement, Idam Sarvam Yadayam Atma. All the cognitions are this Atma alone. Like that, there is another from Shvetashvatara Upanishad which says, Purusha eva idam vishwam. This world as we know it is an appearance of that Purusha alone. Here Purusha means Brahman. So without Brahman or Atma, there is no cognition. Like this, describing the non-dual nature of Atma, and then also establishing the meaning of the Mahavakya, Aham Brahma Asmi, is the structure of this verse. So, Vishayakyam Yadyad Vedyam Vastu Satatvam means every object which is seen and known in this world is perceived with the five senses. Eyes can see, the ears can hear, the nose can smell, the tongue can taste, the skin is given to the feel of touch. Like this, these five senses only give rise to knowledge in us. See, the thing to note here is the mind is not creating knowledge. What does the mind do? All these sense organs, they bring knowledge or information. They bring information to the mind, and then the mind develops that knowledge. The mind can, based on available data which is given by the senses, it can imagine and infer. So the mind cannot know anything new other than what is fed to it. So the five sense organs are the instruments through which we perceive sound, touch, form, taste and smell. So all the objects in the world can be known by any one of these channels. If you cannot know some object, which may be because it's very microscopic, then you can of course use an instrument like a telescope or a microscope and then know about the object. So objects known through these five senses is Vedyam Vastu, knowable object. Vishayakyam refers to objects known like this. Now this word Vishaya itself in Sanskrit is a very distinct word. It is derived from the verb root shi bandhane, shi bandhane. It means that which has the capacity to call us and bind us in the sense, bind this human mind to that object. So that is a Vishaya. So the object itself has that power, it seems like. Visheshena Purusham Badhnati iti Vishayaha. So this Vishayakyam, you can understand this in two parts. That is, every Vishayam you are knowing about. And whatever you are knowing about, in that itself, inherent is Brahman. Vastu Satatvam. So now how is this? How is this to be understood? That Brahman is there as part of that object which is known by you. This Jagat is created by Ishvara. So whatever is seen is created by Ishvara. So then in this created world, Srishtam Jagat, Ishvara is inherent. Now how do we understand that the cause is inherent in the product? For that we take this common example of ornaments made of gold. Now in all the ornaments which are made of gold, you do see gold, the material cause, is present in all the different products. The chain, the ring, the bangle, in everything there is this material gold which is present, which means in all objects, in the product or the karyam, the karanam or cause will be present. Then another example to understand this is, when you say this is a cotton shirt, then the shirt is the product, and in that product, the shirt, the material cause, cotton yarn, will definitely be present. Without that yarn, you cannot have the shirt. So like that, all the objects you see, being created by Paramatma or Brahman, that Brahman inheres in each and every object. So, yadyad vedyam vastu satatvam vishayakyam tattad brahmaiveti viditva tadaham cha. So, all that is to be understood as Brahman. A table, a chair, it may be a stone, a mountain, the river, the birds, the animals, etc. Anything you see is Brahman. Now, to understand this, little more, analysis. We'll look at it from another perspective. Now, we go back to ornaments made of gold. Whether the ornament is a ring or a earring or a chain or a bracelet, in each of this, the very basic cause, material cause, gold, is present. So, in this ring, the presence of gold is visible for us to know. Now, when we are talking about these ornaments which are made of gold, the cause, which is the gold, is visible for us. So, we can see the cause in all the products. But then in the objects in the world, Brahman is not visible to be known to our mind. So, how do we understand this is the question. Then another example is when you look at the product pot, we do see the cause, which is the mud, visible to us. Similarly, in a shirt also, cotton shirt that we spoke about earlier, the cause, which is the cotton yarn, that is also visible. But then Brahman, which Shastra says is present everywhere in everything, I cannot see. So then here some more thinking can be done. Now when we think deeper, we will understand that there is no rule that Brahman should be visible, isn't it? So you can even take some examples from daily life where you can't see the cause as is in the product. For example, the cow eats grass and it gives milk. Is there any connection between the grass and the milk? Further, from milk you get curds. This milk is white in its appearance. Curd also is white. Okay. Then from curds you churn it and you see butter, which is also white. But after that, when the butter is melted and you get ghee from it, that is not white. It is nowhere like the very basic cause, which is the milk. Now the ghee is yellowish in color. So how can we accept that ghee came from milk? You cannot. Like that, initially any object will have characteristics similar to the source or the cause. But then gradually any semblance to the cause need not be there. So then we cannot deny the presence of the source. Similarly, in objects, even though Brahman is not visible, Shastram establishes that Brahman is present. Further, what is the proof? Is there any proof that I can accept this? Iti, when you think. Now, why do you say gold chain? Let's look at it like that. So, why do you say gold chain? Because the chain came from gold. So, you say golden chain. Then when you take a mud pot, why do you say mud pot? Because you want to show that the pot is made from the coarse mud. Then when you mention the presence of any other object, how do you say it? You say that object is, the mud is, the table is, the chair is, the tree is, the flower is, the cow is, etc. Like that, in all these expressions you say is, that is is. the presence is mentioned by the word is. Why so? Because the object exists. That is why you say the flower is, the cow is, etc. Such existence is Paramatma Swarupam. Shruti says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So there Satyam is the existence. So in all objects, Paramatma is present. And here I should also remember to include myself. So whether it is a small microscopic object or some huge form, in everything, everywhere, Paramatma as Chaitanyam in the form of consciousness is present. So it means we cannot know any object or we cannot have any cognition without the presence of Paramatma. So the shloka says, Yad yad vedyam vastu satatvam tat aham brahma eva iti viditva. So thus knowing that in all these cognitions, the one who is perceiving, perceiver, tat aham cha. So that perceiver, I am also that Brahman. This is the understanding which arises. Who is this I that is perceiving the objects and talking about the perceptions itself? When you say, I eat, I walk, I run, I see, I smell, etc., that I is an awareness which is internally known to you, and that is Paramatma. That Paramatma is Eko Devaha, is the only one and is present in every Sharira, because of whom all the cognitions are made known to the mind. Now, just like the sun, S-U-N, the sun is reflected in many pots of water. The sun is only one, but because of the number of pots, it looks like many. Similarly, Paramatma is reflected in the mind of each and every one. Paramatma is Eko Devaha, the only one, but because the mind is different, the Paramatma is present, is reflected in each and every one. Mind is the reflected consciousness. In other words, as soon as the mind associates with Brahman, the mind reflects the original consciousness. So it is said, Tad aham cha. This is I. So in the world, each and every object cognized, yad yad vedyam, tat brahma eva, and that is Brahman. Iti viditva, having known this, dhyayanti evam. The wise or the knowers of Brahman, they continue to see and think of Brahman everywhere, in front, behind, above, anywhere, everywhere. So the wise person sees the all-pervading Brahman and he knows that there is no place where Brahman is not. Yam Sanakadyaha Munayaha. In this way, Sanaka and the other sages, they meditate. So, you see that when you think of Parvati Parameshwara in the form of Dakshinamurti, then it is beautifully explained by a scholar like this. Dakshinamurti is sitting under the tree and he is surrounded by the sages, Sanaka, Sanandana, etc. So, and all of them are silent. So, this is explained by sages like this. The Sanaka, the sages, from the time they were born, they were not interested in expanding the creation. They were enjoying that meditative state so much that they wanted to remain in that meditative state. So they continued to do tapas. And when they were being taught Atma Tattva by the Lord himself, then Lord Dakshinamurti saw that they all went into Samadhi. So it seems the Lord, thinking that the students themselves are in Samadhi, there is nothing for him to teach them. So they say that Lord Dakshinamurti became silent, Maunam it seems, and he also went into Samadhi. This is told in a light note. So in this situation, one day Parameshwara is manifest and he asks the Sanadi sages, why are they doing tapas? So then they say they want to enjoy that limitless happiness which they have gained from tapas. So there is no other seeking, and therefore they are doing tapas. Now the point that we have to learn from here is, once a seeker's mind enjoys learning Vedanta, he or she will not like anything else. There will be no other desire attractive. So even Purana will not be very interesting. Such is the greatness of Vedanta Shravanam Mananam Nididhyasanam. An inquiry into the truth of the self, Atma Vichara, that is Atma Tattva Vichara, is the most soothing for the mind. It evokes the fullness in one's self. Shastra says that after having done Shravanam of Purana and Itihasa, then only one will gain Ishvara Anugraha, the blessings of the Lord, and then such a person will further do Vedanta Vichara. So once Vedanta Vichara comes to a seeker, nothing else will be liked by him. As it is said, Ishvara Prasadat eva pumsam advaita vasana. So such a Paramatma, the Sanaka, Sanandana, etc. and other sages are meditating upon. Yam Sanakadya Munayaha evam dhyayanti tam ajam. Further, that Nirgunam Brahma is said to be ajam, one who has no birth, because he is beyond time. In other words, time itself is Bhagavan and he does not have any limitations. So that Nirguna Brahman, ajam, tam ajam, these sages also meditate upon, so that this samsara does not affect them at all. So on the whole, if you see, every object of knowledge which can be known, the truth of all that is Paramatma alone. In all this, I, who is the knower or perceiver of objects, is also Paramatma. Knowing this, one does dhyanam, and that Paramatma who is to be meditated upon is contemplated by even the great sages, Sanaka, Sanandana also. So that Paramatma who is ajam, one who is beyond time, by meditating upon him, we get release from the darkness of samsara. So tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimide. I offer my salutations and prayers unto that Hari, meditating upon whom I am not affected by samsara. Yadyad vedyam vastu satatvam vishayakhyam tattad brahmaiveti viditva tadaham cha dhyayantyevam yam sanakadya munayojam tam samsara dhvanta vinasham harimide. Namaste.